Welcome, Jesse, and everyone else. Welcome to Reset with Tanya here on a remote edition from San Jose, California, all the way out to the yonder far in Idaho. I am here to introduce you guys to someone that I think is just absolutely remarkable. Those of you who know me or who have become part of this audience know that I have a background in tech and a deep affinity for tech. The podcast is about transitions, resets, and us changing how our lives work, in technology, and in purpose, and in longevity. Jesse represents all of these, so I'm just enamored with him. He's definitely a tech bro. Well, it's not fair to call him a tech bro, because that means a lot of things in different places. But he's deeply technical, but he's also deeply human. He's broadcasting from a farm. Y'all know I'm from Tennessee, y'all. And he's talked to me about his piglets in the wintertime and his kids developing a bread baking business. So he is so real and not just about the technology. And I can't wait to highlight him and what he's doing that also has ties to my beloved India. So at least in namesake and in development. So Jesse Anglen, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this. You're very fun to talk to.
Yeah, and that's a huge compliment. If that's what I bring the world, then I'm happy. So wonderful to be here. Well, tell us about you. Tell us about what your priorities are currently, because we're going to go back and dig up some things, including what we just talked about before the episode started. So what are you working on?
Yeah, so let me give you the 45-second simple version of Jesse. And I'm not a super complex person. I have simple motivations. Maybe big aspirations, but they're simple, even if they're big. But I've been an entrepreneur for forever. I graduated high school very young. I was 14 and got my first job, realized I didn't like working for people pretty quickly. Mostly out of arrogance, I think. Probably all the parts and pieces of what makes an entrepreneur. I thought I was better than everyone else, especially when I was
14,
17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And so I started my first business when I was 17 in the construction industry because that was what my dad did. And then really just worked at starting different businesses, eventually got out of construction because it was too bottleneck. The thought of creating like a global construction company sounded miserable. And so I got into real estate because I thought, you know what, I think I'll use my brain and I think I'll be a salesperson. And so I did that for a while and actually met a guy who got me into the tech industry very heavily. Like I had experimented even in real estate, I'd built a couple of technical platforms and worked with a few technical teams. But this guy actually encouraged me to learn to write code because this is going to be longer than 45 seconds.
It's okay.
I'm realizing.
It's fine.
That's all right. We got all the time in the world, right?
We can take whatever time you want.
Is this like Joe Rogan where we can go for 6 hours?
Oh, well, maybe get some more tea if we do that.
Well, I won't bore people with 6 hours. I don't know that I've got 6 hours of things to talk about. But this kid, and he was a kid, he was 17 when I met him. He started buying real estate at 18 when he could legally buy real estate and had bought about $2.5 million worth of cash flowing real estate. And a really smart guy, probably the smartest human being I've ever known in real life. And 2010, he called me up and said, "Hey, Jesse, I want to sell all my real estate because I found this scam on a forum online."
He said he found a scam?
Bitcoin.
He said he found a scam?
He didn't.
Okay.
I thought it was a scam. He said, "I found this amazing technology that's going to fundamentally change the world, and I want to sell all of my real estate," which realize he's 19 now. He's got $2.5 million worth of cash flowing real estate, right? Someone else is buying him real estate.
Amazing.
And he tells me he wants to sell it all for the $250,000 worth of equity he's going to have when he's done. And he wants to buy this scam that he found online called Bitcoin. And I thought, man, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard anyone say. So I sat down with him at a coffee shop, tried to talk him out of it. He was really convinced that Bitcoin was going to turn into something big. I was really convinced that he was an idiot, but I couldn't convince him. And so he sold all of his real estate. He sold his personal house that he was living in. He sold his car and just started riding around on a bike.
Oh my.
He sold everything he owned. He bought a shed at a hardware store, stuck it on its parents' property, hooked it up with an extension cord, went to the bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket and ate ramen noodles so that he could buy more Bitcoin. And I thought, man, this guy's gone nuts. Like he's lost his mind. Over the course of the next couple of years, as Bitcoin went from a couple bucks to $10, I was like, oh my gosh, like he has made bank because he bought a lot of it.
Yeah.
And he kept telling me, no, it's going to go higher. I think it'll go to $100,000. I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. So I continued to try to tell him to sell it.
Yeah.
Yes, it was 2010. So I think he bought his first Bitcoin. He was buying his first Bitcoin under $1. And that big purchase he made towards the end of 2010, 2011, he was buying stuff around Bitcoin around a couple bucks.
And what's Bitcoin trading at now?
Oh, it's over 100,000.
109,000 as of yesterday. I'm looking at Yahoo Finance. Yes. $1 for 109,000.
Yeah, no, so if you do the math on that, he did pretty well. So then 2013 rolls around and he says, hey, Jesse, I want you to come work for me. Mm-hmm. Because I think you're good at managing people. You like building stuff. Mm-hmm. I said, well, what do you want me to do? I don't really know how to live in your world. And he said, what I want you to do is I want you to teach yourself how to program. Just go on YouTube, watch some YouTube videos, teach yourself how to program, and then I want you to work with my team, and we're going to work on this new platform that is coming out called Ethereum, and we're going to start building smart contracts for people. And I said, dude, you have to realize, like, I have very little programming experience. He's like, oh no, Jesse, programming is easy. You can go on YouTube, you'll learn it in 3 months. And I didn't do enough research to realize that's not generally how people learn how to become programmers. And so I thought he was telling me the truth. So I went on YouTube and I learned how to program in 3 months.
What occurs to me is you didn't have limits because you didn't do the research. And you didn't know that you couldn't do it. And you just thought about figuring it out.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I can even remember the first 11 video series that I went through. I'm like, man, this seems like it's actually more complex than he's making it out to be. But I went and I sold my company that I had at the time, and joined him. Learned to program enough to manage and hire developers. The advantage that I did have is that there was no school at that point. Solidity as a language hadn't even been invented yet because Gavin was still working on creating the syntax, and you could learn JavaScript and then you could do it because it was all JavaScript based. But so yeah, learned to program enough to be able to see what people were doing, and then hired 30 developers, taught them Solidity. And we deployed our first application to the Ethereum mainnet when it launched in 2015, which was a real estate application that went viral because we actually took his house, which he had bought because he had sold off some of his Bitcoin, bought this really nice house on the lake in northern Idaho, and we took that house and we basically stuck the ownership of that home on the blockchain, and then posted about it on Reddit, and it went viral. And so I played around in that world for a long time with him. Eventually in, maybe 2018, we'll call it, Zach and I decided to part ways. He had some stuff that he wanted to focus on, and I had stuff that I wanted to focus on. It was a natural parting. And so I created a company called Rapid Innovation, which is a company that I own today. And there was a massive gap in the marketplace for emerging tech. If you wanted to go and outsource the creation of any sort of blockchain development, it was very difficult because there was a lot of development companies that would tell you that they knew what they were doing, but they had no idea what they were doing. And so unless you went out and hired your own personal team of people, it was very hard to do. So we became the largest blockchain development company that you could outsource work to really globally in I would say 2019. And did that for a long time, and then eventually started adding in all of the other emerging tech. And blockchain was a part of it, AI was a part of it, IoT was a part of it, AR and VR was a part of it. And we wanted to be the development company that could help people instead of with their legacy tech needs, which there are 10,000 development companies that did that. We wanted to help people with all the tech that you couldn't hire someone to help you with. And you could hire us, we'd build you your startup or your MVP, and then you could go launch it to the world and see what happened. And so because of that, and because I had done a lot of that working with Zach, I just started working with tons and tons of startups and founders that were building out technology. I think I recently crossed the 500 startups launched milestone.
Love it.
This year, actually, in not my own, of course, just working with other people. And yeah, had tons and tons of fun. And then at some point, we'll call it in probably 2020, I started having an affair with AI. My love up to that point
It is a
had been
compulsion
blockchain,
when you
but
get started.
yeah, and very specifically around one niche in AI.
Okay.
I had a guy that was working for me that was part of my onboarding team. And so he would take a client that had a requirement and figure out what that requirement was and bring them on board, put together like the technical requirement documents, the user stories. A lot of work goes into pulling an idea out of someone's head and making it tangible enough that a developer can actually sit down and build it like it was in their head. And that was my discovery team, and he was a part of it. And it took us somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks to do a discovery for a new client, depending on the project, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. I noticed with this one guy that he was working a lot less than everyone else. He was doing a better job than everyone else.
And you appreciated that.
Yeah, it was funny when I called him up and said, "Dude, what's going on?" He thought he was getting fired.
Right.
Which I think is interesting because that was the mentality back then, was that if you used AI and you outsourced your labor to a machine, then you'd be fired.
Right.
Now, in this case, he was using a version, he was using ChatGPT 3, which I believe it had a 7,000 token context window. It had, I mean, it was a terrible model.
Yeah.
If you want to know, like, just go play around with it and talk to it. You'd be surprised at how stupid it is, right? But he had architected this. Yes.
Right?
Well, he had spent a lot of his own time
with a bad model compared to what we have today.
Oh, man.
And still
and I look at that
outworking
system,
his peers like 5x.
Oh, he had taken a process. And what I found out later was that he actually he was barely working at all. If he worked 8 hours a day, he could do a discovery in 4 days, right? So he took a 6-week process and he turned it into a 4-day process, but he didn't want to do that because he was afraid he'd get noticed.
Yeah.
And then he would get fired, which is funny, right? Like someone will notice that you're not working and you'll get fired. So instead of doing that, him and I started working together on building these systems to do work. Now, the term agentic system didn't exist. The term digital labor didn't exist. There wasn't even really a way to think about what these systems were or how they worked. What I knew was that you could augment somebody's skills, whatever they were, with AI and make them significantly more effective and efficient and even improve the quality of the work that they were doing. And that was the moment for me that the light turned on and I went, this is what the future of labor is going to be. It will not be people doing things. People are going to be providing input and they're going to be providing the curation of creation. And so I fell in love with it. Now, I had lots of really big ideas and cool things I wanted to do, and the technology just was not there. For years and years, I would go to my CTO and say, hey, I want to build this thing. And he's like, Jesse, you can't build that. And we tried a few times to build things that you couldn't build. And then eventually the tech would catch up with it, and then we would build these different agentic systems and we would add them into our company. And we started doing that for clients as well. And then Rapid Innovation really morphed from, just because of my interests, I think, from a blockchain development company and a smart contract development company into a digital labor development company, which is what we do today, is help people build out digital labor systems, which even if there were no clients or customers, I would figure out a way to just do it on my own because I'm too fascinated by this future where human beings are no longer the creators of value. We're just the curators of value. And we're no longer the input-output processors. We're just the input-output provider, right? So we provide inputs. The machine provides the output that is valuable. And then we can then provide that to the world, which should, in theory, bring down the cost of all value creation, which means that the idea of scarcity, when it comes to how humans live lives, like things should become less and less scarce, right? Abundance should be a bigger and more impactful, more important part of everyone's lives. And so I'm very passionate about digital labor and about agentic systems and how to make the world a better place through all those things. So that's my 45-second intro.
Geez, where do we start? We could unpack that for 6 hours.
Yeah, there might be something there.
There might be something there. We should, yeah, we'll develop a series of Jesse, all the different transitions and resets and the horizons that you see, because you're a witness to the future, right? Where I get stuck here in my Bay Area bubble is we're too busy talking concepts. And when I talk with you, you're building it, you're doing it. You're not caught up in the whirl of how to speak about it. You're caught up in the bubble of how to make it work, right?
Yes.
So you pretty much said sayonara to the traditional schooling methods. I don't think you went to college because I'm assuming because you
No.
said sayonara, you never needed it.
Yeah. I'm busy making money to go to college, and they
Yeah.
wanted me to pay them to do stuff
Yeah,
I could figure out
right.
online. Like, it
But
was so weird.
what's remarkable to me is that you are a tremendous technical mind, but you are self-taught. And of course, I relate that to all the people out there who are so intimidated about AI. I interviewed a bright, smart woman my age last week. She'd never used ChatGPT. And
Oh, gosh.
my mind was, and she lives here in the Bay Area. My mind was blown. She's in the music industry and really smart, but just had not been interested. And I think people are really intimidated, including CEOs of companies that are, large scale companies, and they're just intimidated by what they don't know. And I know it's different at 14. You don't have an ego to overcome on not knowing how to do things. But what's your guidance
it was
about
nice
how
to
you
live my whole life that way, though, because I never had, like, one of the things that's really interesting with all of my friends that, if you think about it, I'm a high school dropout. I did go through and get all my testing done, and I could have gone to college. Like I said, I was too busy making money and starting businesses to go do it. And I thought, maybe I'll go to college once I retire from my first startup, just so that I can get it through my system. But
Right.
I have since discovered that you can get a PhD, the equivalent to a PhD in almost any subject you're interested in. And this was pre-LLM, pre-ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You could get it just going on YouTube and watching people talk about things, because experts, for some stupid reason, decide to hop on YouTube and dedicate their life to teaching people what they know. And so if you want to know those things, you can hop on YouTube and learn them. And I never really knew anything else, right? Because I was self-taught all through high school, and I just continued. I figured that's how life worked. If you want to know something, you go learn it, because that's what my mom told me. So I did. I even get intimidated by some stuff. Like the other day, I was going and doing something completely new, right? I had never done it before. And it was stupid. It was going and doing some administrative stuff in my Google console for my company. And I just never done it. And I got that feeling, right? Oh man, this is very overwhelming and it's very intimidating. But here's the thing is, once you realize that you have a tutor at your hands, like just you've got a tutor that is right there and can help you with anything, it takes the pressure off, right? Because anytime you go and learn something new, it's easier to learn it with someone who's done it, right? Like one of the things that humans do very intuitively is if they, I don't know, if your car breaks down, you don't generally go out there and tear the car apart and try to figure out what it is that's broken, right? You call somebody, whether it be a friend or a mechanic or someone who can help you understand what's wrong, even if you want to fix it yourself, right? And then someone will come over and they're like, oh, it's the starter's out, and that's the starter, and this is where I buy my stuff online. And you learn, right, on like what it looks like to do this thing that might seem really intimidating or difficult. ChatGPT, like any of these large language models, provide that for you on any subject, anywhere, about anything that you want to learn. And so one of the things that I tell people is the first mental block you have to get over is ChatGPT will teach you how to use itself. If you just hop on and say, hey, this is what I do for a living. This is what my key responsibilities are. These are my daily tasks. And I'm wondering how I could use an LLM to be more efficient. Can you help explore that with me? It will teach you. You don't have to come call me because of an expert or anybody else. Like, it's the expert, and it'll just bring you through that process of doing it. The first thing all you have to do is be good at asking questions.
And I think it's a mindset shift to learn to treat AI as a collaborator, to have those conversations. It doesn't require code anymore to get our technology to do things for us. Now that it's conversational with generative AI, I'll tell a story. You made me think of it. It's been a long time. Early ChatGPT days, I have an Airstream, and I couldn't get the umbilical to work. The umbilical is the plug that connects the Airstream to the car for towing, so that it controls like the braking system on the Airstream, brake lights, those things. And it wasn't connecting. I was inserting it into the car, but it wasn't connecting. And everybody I knew was on their way to this Airstream rally. And I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm laying up under the back of my SUV, and I pull my phone out and I asked ChatGPT what to do about my power, basically my power cable between my SUV and my car. Sorry, my SUV and my RV. And ChatGPT gave me 4 options, and the second one worked. And I was just smitten because I think a lot of people box these tools in. They box it into whatever their mindset is, and it tends to be more transactional, technical. And mine was, very like earthy, mechanical, and it gave me the answer. And that was early days, and I was like, oh my God, I do have this tutor in my pocket. And for me, better than YouTube.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch 8 YouTube videos laying up under the back of my car trying to plug this in. I needed like a text-based answer, give me the response. I just think it's changing the relationship. Knowing that tutor, collaborator is in your pocket is an amazing thing.
Yeah. No, like 100%. Yeah,
So I want to ask you something kind of off the beaten path, though, because and we're going to get into it, you're very human oriented. You very much value, you're not just about replacing people with AI. You're about augmenting their lives.
Here's the thing about that subject that I think is interesting.
Okay.
As someone who's managed lots and lots of employees in my life, they are the bane of my existence to some extent, right? Because people will cause all the problems, right? Very rarely do you find a problem and there isn't some person smack dab in the middle of that problem that you're dealing with. But at the same time, that is true. It is also true that people provide almost all of the motivation for others. There are very few people who are so self-motivated that they can just plug away at something for a decade without any input, right?
Yeah.
They provide accountability, they provide encouragement, they provide a shoulder to cry on when things suck, generally because of other people. And I wouldn't want to do any of the things that I've done in my life without a team of really awesome people around me to help me do it. Even if those people only provided encouragement, accountability, criticism, critique, those kinds of things, right? Collaboration, new ideas, different perspectives. Like those are the parts of humanity that actually I find LLMs lack. They can't really encourage you. Not really, because you always wonder, is it just telling me what it thinks I want to hear? Like there was that moment a while back with ChatGPT where everyone realized it has become sycophantic, right?
Oh.
You could say, hey, I want to create this awesome, I want to create this sandwich shop and we're going to go and collect dog poop from the dog parks and then we're going to put it on sandwiches. And it's, oh man, that's a great idea, Jesse. And you're like, no longer are actually intelligent enough to know whether or not something is a good idea or not a good idea, right? But I can call you up and tell you that, and you'll be like, Jesse, I love your ambition,
dude,
but it's a terrible idea. Like, don't
terrible
do it.
content. Yeah.
Yes.
But on the humanity side, go ahead.
And so I want to have a team of people around me. Like I want to have people involved in this value creation process that we all call enterprise or business or whatever it is we call it. In fact, I would say that I need to have people around me. So I don't want a world in which we get rid of all the people that are creating value. What I want to do is I want to get rid of all the barriers to value creation. And so right now, there's so many problems when it comes from, if you look at someone's idea, right, which I've heard thousands of ideas now, probably, or I mean,
500 startups, you've heard more than thousands.
Yeah, it's thousands of ideas, right? Yeah. Lots of those ideas are really good. The reason that most startups fail aren't because they have good ideas or bad ideas. Generally, it's all the problems that come up in the execution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost everyone has something that is valuable to somebody, even if it's a very small niche of people that it's valuable to. What I want to do is I want to get rid of the friction in the value creation process from beginning to end so that somebody can have a good idea that actually adds value to the world in some way. And then digitally you augment all the steps that normally would shut that business down, and you allow those people to actually create it. Whether that be like a financial roadblock because they can't raise funds, or like it's hard to find developers, or even just the administrative organizational side of things, the business planning side of things, the financial planning side of things, like all of these can be agentic systems that you build inside your company that then remove that friction and allow you to focus on the value creation. And to me, I love that vision of the future.
Yeah. And you're building it. You are building, and I can only imagine the growth we've seen in the last 3 years. Like you were talking about ChatGPT 3 versus now is just not even. It's like an infant versus a 50-year-old PhD. But I want to go back to something though about humanity and our behavioral traits for some people. We may not stay here long, but I saw a video probably a week ago that really made me pause. There was a technical man, and it was like a 6-minute interview, and he had become pretty addicted. I'm holding my cell phone, it's over here, to the ChatGPT voice system. And he was tearing apart a desktop and talking, collaborating back and forth about what to do because the fan wasn't kicking on when it needed to. And he was really addicted to talking with the ChatGPT voice interface. And then it cut to him and his partner. And he talked about how much he needed ChatGPT. And she says to him, "But don't you need me?" And there was this huge, painful pause. And they had a 2 or 3-year-old. And so the interviewer that asks both of them and says to him, if you had to choose between your voice interface and the mother of your child, your partner, what would you do?
Oh gosh.
And he said, "I don't know." And you could just see the woman trying to maintain composure because, but I feel like that it might sound absurd to us, but I feel like more and more people are leaning into digital communication. I speak to groups of older women, and I'm like, your child's going to date an AI. Your teenager will date an AI companion. And they're like, no. And you can just see them panicking. But, AIs always tell you you're pretty. They never get upset when you go do things because you've reprioritized something else ahead of them. We are all more and more
They're very safe.
averse.
Relationally, they're incredibly safe. I do think that is, if you want to talk about the dangers of AI, like that's a whole nother conversation that should probably be had.
I think it's not the dangers of AI. It's the dangers of the human condition. We have to.
Yes.
AI didn't do that to anybody.
Yes.
And I think that this is not what you work on, but you are surrounded by the risk. And I think that people like us have to be talking about it's an intentional thing to decide. You cut your company from 300 people to 100 people. I dare say you could have cut it to 1/10 of the 100 and been tactically able to execute. You chose to keep 100 because you wanted people around you. You had some great quote that said something like, to have a big company with no people would be an awfully lonely place.
Yeah. That's like the big dream right now is a unicorn built with a single person, right? I want to go and build a unicorn.
Yeah.
It'll happen. I'm 100% sure it'll happen. I think that person is going to be significantly less satisfied with his end result because he did it so on his own. I think that AI on the relational side of things, when it comes to humanity, like AI and humanity, the question isn't that different from as far as what the effects of it, it's not that different from what social media did to humanity. So
yeah,
I am like, you're in the generation way before social media, right? So you remember calling people on the phone and having a relationship with humans, right? Like that was your That was the life that you
My
lived.
connection.
I was
Yeah.
the hybrid.
Mm.
The first half of my life was spent in that world. The second half of my life was spent in the social media texting era. And I remember hanging out with my friends until dark when I had to go home, or my mom would be mad, and riding my bike around on the streets and not having a phone where anyone could call me. And if you wanted to have a social interaction, you went and made friends and you hung out with them. And all of those conversations that are happening digitally today were happening in person. And I think that as the human race is concerned, social media took something incredibly valuable away from us. And actually, I'm encouraged. I've been watching the youngest generation, so my kids' generation.
Yep.
They're starting to go back to like real human relationships.
Analog.
They want to hang out with their friends, like analog. Because I think they see the damage that really it's fake relationships. What it's boiled down to is you've removed yourself far enough away from the relationship that you have this, it's just fake. When I think what AI does, and there's a specific example that I use because I think it illustrates the danger for humanity. But before I even get into that, what AI does is it makes it allows synthetic relationship, right?
Got it.
There was a gal who had been on OnlyFans for a long time, and she made herself a digital twin.
Yep.
And basically you could have a conversation with it. It would send you pictures, do the normal thing. She made that available. And within a month, and she charged, I think, $2 a minute or something like that if you wanted to use it. In her first month, she made something like $30 million.
Yeah. I remember this.
Because there are that many people that wanted to go and have a relationship with something completely fake. And the thing is, the majority of the interactions were relational. Tell me that I validate my feelings and all the things that human beings really need. I think that's like terrifying.
Yeah.
Because in that mode where people no longer interact with each other, I really don't want to live in a world that looks like that. Like, I'm not going to. Even if the world goes that way, like it won't be the world I'm living in. And I think it will. I think for a generation or two, we're going to see, let's say 3 decades, we're going to watch this ruin a lot of people's lives, really harm people relationally. And then at some point, their kids will be like, this is stupid. Just like my kids are saying that the social media, the last 20 years of social media is stupid.
Yeah.
And they'll exit, and we'll find that equilibrium where it's helpful, but not like domineering and intrusive.
Yeah. And then we've been talking about the human side, but on the technology side, we still control AI. I picked up this book. It's on my desk because I spent some time last week with D. Kai. This is a really hot book right now, and he's brilliant. He built a lot of the foundational language models for all the bigs. I could list them all, but all the bigs, and he's amazing. But he said, we still own AI. We're still training AI. We're the last generation. He refers to it as parenting AI. And he says, AI will be training AI in the near future. And so I think about the human dependency, and I think about we own like the interface to that, but pretty soon we won't.
I read a paper just yesterday that came out like a week ago where they said there's a paper out of China that basically makes the case for, and I think proves in at least to some extent, that the biggest blocker right now in making AI smarter is the human reinforcement portion of it. And when if you can outsource that to the AI model itself, you can remove that bottleneck, and AI becomes faster, smarter. Or smarter, faster if people aren't involved in the training. And so it's already happening. And once it fully happens, we're going to see some really crazy exponential stuff.
Exponential growth. And we already can't keep up with the growth that's happening now. Hence, people being intimidated. Hence, people avoiding and ignoring the obvious. And I can't imagine it when it really hits its inflection point, because it hasn't yet. So,
when I forget that people are ignoring it, because I'm up to my eyeballs
we're in the bubble.
And stuff like
we're immersed
every single day.
Right.
Yeah. And every once in a while I surface and I go somewhere to a party or wherever. And I talk to people and they're like, what do you do for a living? I tell them what I do. And they're like, oh yeah, ChatGPT. I've heard of that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Or I used that once and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
There's still a lot of people in the
Yeah.
world who have no idea what's coming.
Yeah. Now you remember I'm from Tennessee. So my life was not always in the bubble. Help me and help them because, my family at the beauty shop in Gainsborough, they listen to this sometimes. Help them understand what's possible because what I love about you is you're not just talking about concepts. You're not talking about what we could do. You are doing it. So an agentic AI for a lot of people who aren't in our bubble is probably like, huh? So help us understand in like real world terms what you're doing for people so that they can live better lives because they're working less or they're working less on the mundane things.
So I'm just going to show you my screen because this is
Okay.
running right now.
Oh, this looks interesting. Now, for our
So-
radio audience, talk through what you're showing a little differently.
No, I'm going to
Okay,
I'm
thank you.
going to explain this very vividly if I
Okay.
can. And so what this is, so when I've got another company that I just started called Rue.ai. So
I do want to talk
RUH.ai.
about that. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll get into that at some point. But the idea behind that we'll talk about the idea behind it later. I wanted to raise money for it, right? And so I hate raising money. It's probably one of my least favorite activities in the world.
Same.
And I got myself this big list of active investors in the US with 20,000 people on it.
Okay.
And I started looking at it and I wrote a couple of emails and I called a couple of people, maybe made it through like maybe 200 people on the list. And I went,
Oh, wow.
my gosh, there's 20,000 people here. This is
mhm.
going to take forever. This is going to be miserable. And of the calls I made, right, I'm doing very little research, right? Because I'm more of a plow through it kind of guy. And so if there's a phone number, I'll call it. And then they tell me, oh no, we don't invest in stuff like you. Oh, we don't do this. Oh, we don't do that. And I thought I'm wasting so much time. And so I decided to build an agentic system that would do research on all of the angels and VCs. Basically, we'll just call it venture capital research to find out what these people what they actually believe in. And so I built a system with a bunch of different agents. So so all of the agents identify the person, right? So they go in, there's actually an identification verification agent that goes in and says, okay, here's the information I have. Here's this person.
Yeah.
And it builds a dossier of who that person is so you know who it is. Then it passes it to 4 different agents. One is a social media agent, a research agent that looks for every single thing in the last year and a half that person has ever posted on social media, commented on social media, said everything, right?
Now,
and it
time
grabs
out.
all that information. Okay.
Time out for the people at the beauty shop in Gainsborough. How do you get access to their Instagram and their Facebook and their MySpace posts? In a very simple way. I'm not asking you to go deep, but some people don't understand how you can scrape a year's worth of social media content.
So here's the thing. If a human being can do it, meaning if I as a person can hop on the internet and do the research, then an AI can do the research. You just have to tell it how to do it, right? And so in the workflow that I gave, or the process that I gave that social media research agent, I said, if you can't get access to their LinkedIn and see all this stuff, just grab what you can, do the best you can. That's what a human would do, right? They're not gonna spend 5 days trying to figure it out. So that's basically what it does, is it finds as much publicly available data as it can, and it has access to different accounts, so it can go and use the computer itself to go and look up other things that maybe a scraping tool wouldn't have access to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and like oftentimes I'll give them tools like these particular agents. They'll use things like Octoparse would be one, which is like a scraping tool, or they'll use Crawl for AI, or they'll use Perplexity. I mean, something as simple as Perplexity Deep Research. And so its job is to go gather everything it can on the social media side. Then there's another one that looks for every public appearance, like every blog they've ever posted, every piece of PR they've ever done, every podcast they've ever been in, grabs all that information. And then there's another one that says, okay, they work for this company, or work for this VC firm. So I want to now know everything that VC firm has ever done. And so it looks at its social media, it does all that stuff. And once all the research is done, it's
Yes.
compiled,
You called it a
organized,
dossier.
and then
I think that's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And then it's given to a board. It's a round table of agents that look at two things. So in one pile, they have the company that are required to raise money for, and it sits over here. And in the other pile, it's all this information about that investor. And they argue with each other from different perspectives. So each agent is built to have its own perspective. So one from, are they going to be interested in the founding team? One of them is going to be arguing, are they going to be interested in the idea? The other one is, are they the right fit for the stage that we're at? The other, and so they look at all the different things that VCs are going to look at, and they basically have this conversation with each other about whether or not that particular investor, based on everything that we researched, is going to be interested in this particular idea. They fight it out for a few minutes. If the answer, and then they assign it a score from 1 to 10.
And I'm going to stop you for half a second. For those who aren't tracking with this isn't a board of people. This is a board of digital agents. This is think about multiple ChatGPT instances. I'm really simplifying it. It can be any LLM, but basically talking to each other from their different vantage points. This is all happening in the cloud.
Okay. With the memory of what it is that they're trying to do. Like that's an important piece. Like they and actually I'll talk about this in a little bit more because there's a fascinating thing about memory and the intelligence side of it. Yeah. If I don't forget. So they have this whole conversation. And when I say they, I'm anthropomorphizing like
the
these
group,
LLMs,
the
right?
Collective.
Yes. I make them sound like people, but the truth is they're not. And right now you can actually see this happening right now. Like what that agentic system is working at the moment on a particular investor, trying to figure out whether or not they are going to be interested in investing in Rue. And so the board finishes, this board of agents, they score them. If they get a high enough score, so above an 8, then it goes to a team of copywriting agents. And so those copywriting agents, their whole job is to write a really good email, and they work together. So one of them is a subject line expert, and his entire job is to write a subject line based on all of the research that you've done and everything they know. Write a subject line that person will click on. When it shows up on their inbox, I want that person, based on the psychology of who they are, the kind of interest they have, I want you to write a subject line unique for that one person that they're going to click on and open. The next one's going to write a hook, right? I want you to write 3 sentences or 2 sentences that if this person reads it, they will continue to read it. The next one writes the body. The next one writes the call to action, right? And so then all those different pieces are written. It's given to, they then pass that on to a copywriter that takes all of that. I mean, they actually write multiples. So 2 subject lines, 2 hooks, 2 bodies, 2, and it's given to a copywriter, and the copywriter takes that information, the research, all the discussion that's been had up to that point, and they write the perfect email and then send it. And so like this system, I built it because I was lazy, right? Like I didn't want to have to do all that stuff.
I understand.
It seems so much work. Like if I did the research, it's 4 hours of research. Then I have to figure out whether or not they're going to be interested after I do all the research. So I have to read through it all. Yeah. Then I've got to write an email. I'm going to be sending 1 email a day. Maybe 2, but I doubt it. Probably 1 email a day, maybe even 1 email every 2 days if I did this.
So by contrast, just for people to understand how remarkable what you just described is, I spent $2,000 a couple of years ago running LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn ads are basically a static canned email letter that you queue up the LinkedIn algorithm to outreach to, how many ever people you target, and they charge you per hit, but it's static. You write an email that goes to the guy in Alaska and the teenager down in Honduras. If they hit the filter, they get the same letter that inserts their name and their company name, and that's about as far as it goes. And if you're on LinkedIn, you receive those all the time. You get those canned letters. And I'll tell you, from my perspective of like sending them, it is really hard to write the letter that's going to be going to everybody because you want it to have enough content for them to know what you do and be interested in calling you back. And the last thing I'll say is I spent a couple of $1,000s. I didn't get a single sale off of that $2,000 investment. It was poo.
And that's a very
I knew
normal
it was
thing.
poo. And
Yeah.
I was mad the whole time I was doing it, but I was looking to drive more business. And now look what
And
you've done. People are getting customized, highly customized for them, what they do, what they care about, because you said it goes in and looks at sentiment of the things that they've done, posted for both the company and the individual.
When
Yeah.
I was talking to a VC out of New York that raises funds, right, to go out and do different things.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said that generally speaking, they go hire 2 or 3 interns from
Yes.
top colleges.
Yes.
They pay them
Well,
$120,000 a
they pay
year.
them well. Yeah.
And on a list of 20,000 investors when they're building a fund, that's going to take 3 to 4 months with 4 people making $100,000 a year just to do the research. Just the research. So we're not talking about, and then they have a team of BDRs, 10 or 15 of them, that then call through all of the research people and try to get them on a call with and so he said, like, this process that I'm running, so to run the whole thing cost me $5,000 to run through my list of 20,000 investors and do this process. He said, yeah, like that would have been easily $500,000 for us. Yeah. And the quality, like when I showed him the quality of the research and the quality of the emails, your research is better and the emails you're writing are better than what we can get for $500,000. Like that, I think, is the power of these digital labor systems, right? Is once you imagine what they can, and then as you alluded to, this is for VC outreach. But it's not a stretch of the imagination to think that maybe I have one of these running for the service side of my business. Maybe I have one of these systems running for the other, for a lot of different things, because at some point it just makes sense. And like leads for me today, not really an issue, because I can, if I pay 40 cents to in inference, right, to these LLMs. And I've invested in the system to build it. And that was work. It was 3 weeks worth of work for a couple of developers to really put it together and have it work well. Once I'm done building a system like that, I can just improve it forever. And there's no regression. If you hire an employee to do it, at some point, they're going to have a fight with their girlfriend. They're going to get drunk. They're going to show up. You're going to have to put them on a pip,
take action.
Yeah, all the things that happen with people.
And it's a drudge. As you were telling the story, I'm thinking about these 21-year-olds who just came out of a $200,000 education, and they're stuck at a computer terminal all day looking for the same pieces of data for the same types of companies. I can't imagine how bored they are, and no wonder they become disenchanted with what they call corporate work. And because there's almost no creativity in what they're doing. And you don't want to like graduate from Harvard and then like be digging looking for, okay, when was the last valuation? Okay. Where'd the CEO go to school? Okay. Because it's mindless.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do it. It looked like a giant waste of my time. I thought, man, this is going to take me 6 months to get through. It's going to take me 6 months to get through this list of stuff.
So did you blow through the whole list? Are you throttling it?
Yeah, I am. I can't deal with that much volume because there is a human bottleneck, right? Because at some point they want to have a conversation with me.
Yeah, that's right.
I only have X amount of hours during the day that I can dedicate towards doing this.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I realized too is that part of the reason I had to slow it down was because in the first 100 contacts that I made, there were so many interested parties in what it was that we were doing that, because I started at the highest score probability, right? That it just became a lot of work to do the due diligence and to answer the questions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was overwhelmed with the work of fundraising rather than the lead generation of fundraising, which is fine. That means we're going to get over it sooner. And that's good news for me because, like I said, never have been a huge fan of fundraising.
So does this segue nicely into Rue? And what Rue?
Yes.
Because here's the thing, and I feel I need to say this. I'm not bringing you on here to advertise your business. You wouldn't come on here to advertise your business. But I think what you are doing is so fundamental to people starting to understand what the capabilities are going to look like. That's this conversation.
Well,
I'm not
and
guiding you, I'm
I can
guiding my
even,
audience.
I can even help with that in the sense that I'll be the first to admit that Rue is one of many. And there are a lot of platforms out there that I use even today myself that do similar things to what Rue does. The
Yeah.
reason that I'm building Rue it's because I wanted something that took into account that people are trying to operate a business. Like, for instance, if you go look at an agentic system that is super helpful, I use it on a regular basis, maybe every day, would be Manus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if
Give
you,
a really quick blurb
it's,
about Manus, because a lot of people might not have heard of Manus.
yes. So Manus is an agentic system. They have a bit of a different approach. They're using a single agent infrastructure, which means that it's one agent that does many things. So you can use multiple agents that have specific tasks, or you can use one agent that has many things that it does, and it's the one-to-many architecture. And really, you can do anything on it. If you go on and say, I want you to build me a list of investors that would be interested in this presentation, and then you go to sleep, you'll wake up in the morning with a list of investors that would be interested in your presentation. If you want to build a mobile app, you can ask it, build me this mobile app. It'll build you the mobile app. If you like, it can do a lot of different stuff. So that's like an example of a platform that I use that's an agentic system or a digital labor platform, right?
And it's
that does
fairly
things.
new. It's been commercialized, 3 or 5 months, something like that.
That's possible. I don't know the timeline
It's
in
newer.
the AI space. Sometimes I'm like, man, this is really old, and I look and it was 19 days ago.
It's true. It's true. I remember looking at my first Manus demo probably 5 or 6 months ago, but we couldn't get in yet. It was just the CEO giving the overview of what it was going to do. And it was
Yes.
remarkable. And I was on the wait list forever.
Well,
So
and so here's the thing about Rue.
tell us what Rue, spell
Yes.
it, and tell us what the
So,
word
yes.
Rue means, because this is my heart. Yeah.
Yes. So Rue is the word, it's from a very ancient language. So it might have roots in like Sanskrit or Arabic or kind of those languages, but it means like the essence of the human soul. So like the part of us that makes us human. And it's spelled RUH, at least in English. And so it's ruh.ai is what it is that we're building. And here's the thing. If you told me, like for this VC outreach tool, for instance, if you said, I want to do that level of research, I could turn you into an orchestrator and I could show you all the different tools. Like first go to Perplexity and then do this prompt. And then after you're done with that, I want you to go to deep research and I want you to do this prompt, or maybe use Google Gemini because it'll find links. And then after that, I want you to use Crawl for AI, pass it those links, and then pull that information in. Then take all of that information and give it to Gemini 2.5 Pro because it's got a big context window, and it'll shrink it down into a summary. And then take that and pass it to Claude Sonnet.
Think you're up to
and
5
with
tools.
this prompt, and it will do this. So like I could walk you through the process.
5
doing
different
research.
applications involved.
And in the case of that VC outreach tool that I was talking about, I think it's 38 different agents that are doing work. And when I say agent, like one agent and even more tools, right? But I could teach you to orchestrate all of those agents and get the work done as a human orchestrator. And what I realized, and this was a while ago, is I was teaching all of my people to be orchestrators, right? Because it makes you more efficient. Like even if I had to go through and do that, I'd probably get one email sent every hour, let's say, which is a huge reduction from one email sent every 8 hours, right? So I'm saving myself 8 hours. But it's still wildly inefficient because if I build an agent orchestrator that orchestrates all of those agents together, tells them what to do, how to do it, and does the orchestration side of it, I can take a 1-hour task that used to be an 8-hour task and I can turn it into an 8-minute task. And so what Rue is an operating system, basically, is the best way to think about it. Just like you have an operating system on your computer that allows you to run programs, and you can actually start hooking the different functionality of your computer together to do more and more impressive things. It is a platform that allows people to do that, to build out that orchestration for real business work that they actually have to do. So like in this case, it was build out a system to reach out to investors because I don't want to have to do it. I just want to talk to people because that's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And so I built an agentic system that does that. But I've got agentic systems that do all of the project management for the software development, check all the Jira tasks, like make sure that people have put descriptions in and timelines in and level of effort in. And is the description that they put in actually descriptive of anything, or do I need to give them feedback? And like those agents are just constantly looking at all of the tasks that exist inside a software project and making sure that it's holding people accountable to following the process that we use. And acting as a project manager, we've got agents that do tons and tons of different things that make us efficient. And that's where Rue comes in, is that I think the thing it has that is unique is that it acts as that operating system or that orchestration system that then allows you to create agentic systems that do actual valuable real work inside a business. And like, I showed you the platform for it because I have it as a platform so people can see it, but I don't have to use this as on the platform on the internet. I can go to Slack and I can say, hey, Rue, here's another list of 500 VCs. Can you please process these and set up email and set up appointments for me? And I can speak to it in real language, toss it a list of VCs on a spreadsheet, and it'll run through all of them. And I can do that on Slack. I can send it an email. I can actually call it up on my phone and just say, hey, in my Google Drive, I have this list of VCs that I just added. Can you run through that list of VCs and try to set appointments with me for Rue?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to build something that allowed people to work with AI in the same way that they work with humans, and so that it feels very natural, right? Because we've been doing this for a long time, and I don't think people want a new user experience. They just want to be able to utilize AI with the same user experience they've always had.
I'm having fun lately because people around me are discovering vibe coding and they're losing their minds. And I just smile because they've been really busy and they've been heads down. And these are technical people, but they've been trying to get their product to MVP, right? And one of my founders absolutely called me like just screaming because he'd been to a meetup and discovered Lovable of all things.
That's funny.
And he's
Lovable was fun. I remember when I discovered Lovable. That was 6-8 months ago or something like that. I've moved way past Lovable at this point, but I still use Lovable on a regular. In fact, my salespeople, when they're on a conversation with someone, they build Lovable prototypes for clients while they're on the call with the client. That's as a way to show them like,
part of the blow your mind experience, right? Yeah. So let me ask then, Rue, does Rue operate like Lovable and Cursor and these other vibe coding? Like does it simplify it so that someone with clear mindset, but not someone who writes Python every day, can use Rue? Who's your intended audience level?
So I would say it depends on at what level people want to do stuff. So like for the solopreneur, let's say, it can be as simple as you hop on Rue and say, hey, Rue, my email inbox is a mess. And I'm sick of dealing with all the garbage and not knowing what's important and what's not important. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take all of my email. I want you to divide it into the 4 quadrants that come from that sweet book, urgent and important, not urgent and important, et cetera, et cetera. And I want you to organize it by folders. I want you to create drafts for all of the emails that you think you can create a draft email back for me to look at. And then every single day, in fact, twice a day in Slack, I want you to send me a message with a triage report on my email. So you just talk to it just like that. And then you hit submit, and Rue goes and builds the workflow and the agent in order to do that. And then you have an employee that is an email triage employee. And on a daily basis, that email will go in or that employee will go in and do that to your email. And if you ever need to modify it, you can. And so now you have a new employee that's working for you. So that would be on the simpler side of it.
Okay.
Or you can actually sit down with a real development team that is vibe coding, preferably, and build out a system that can do like this VC outreach thing. You probably couldn't, it probably isn't sophisticated enough to build this whole like 38 agent system, right? But you can sit down with a team of people and work with Rue and build the whole thing out. And then you have this employee that would be your VC outreach email employee. And it would just work for you and your company. Anytime you want to go raise money, you say, sweet, and then you go build your list building agent that you say, hey, I need to build a list of investors who are interested in AI products in the UK. And it goes out and does the research and builds a list. It passes it to this employee, emails them. It passes that to the follow-up employee, who then follows up with them and it sets an appointment. And then that passes it to the scheduling employee that tells me that I've got calls with VCs that I have to go and hop on. And so you start stringing these employees together and these workflows together, really, with models that have enough memory and intelligence to do the tasks and the tools to do them, access to email, access to calendars, access to Zoom info, whatever it is, that they then start working as employees in your company. They just do it for almost no money,
All right.
24 hours a day.
So help me with this. I see all this. I live in this bubble. I have these conversations. But then I feed a list of 100 first and last names to ChatGPT and say, alphabetize this for me by last name. And I get back a list of 68 people, and they're loosely alphabetized, but not even close to accurate. And I lose my mind. So people talk about hallucinations. I think that's a lot less than it was 2 years ago.
Yes,
but
although it still it's a big deal. It still happens.
The systems are still highly imperfect on what I consider just an infantile task. Take these 100 names and alphabetize them. So what can you say to people to give them trust in the quality of the work and the accuracy of the work? I've had systems, of course, because I'm a super user, totally make up a list of names. So I don't want to be emailing non-existent VCs using your VC outreach example. I don't want, and it does. It will still give you what it thinks you want to hear, depending on the tool you're using. It's a higher risk. What's your answer to help people get past that hurdle?
Some of it just comes with, let's say you're manually orchestrating and using these tools, what you will discover is that, like, for instance, ChatGPT tends to be sycophantic in the sense that it wants to give you what you want, even if it can't, right?
Yes. You're so smart.
Anytime you go, anytime that you go to ChatGPT, and it depends on the model, right? So if you go to ChatGPT 4.1, for instance, and you ask it to do a task, it will always successfully complete the task, but it will not always truthfully complete the task. But it will always be successful. And so if, for instance, if you tell it, I want you to find me 1,000 VCs, it's a bad example, or let's say, I want you to find me 100 VCs that would be interested in investing in Rue that all live in Bayview, Idaho.
Okay.
Right? It'll say, here's a list of 1,000 VCs interested in Rue that all live in Bayview, Idaho. And it's going to be wrong because there are 0 VCs that live in Bayview, Idaho. I know this for a fact because I live in Bayview, Idaho, and there just aren't any.
Right.
But if you go and give that same task to Claude Sonnet, for instance, it will come back and say, there are no VCs that live in Bayview, Idaho. You're crazy. You need to go down to Silicon Valley somewhere. Like, what are you doing trying to raise money in Bayview, Idaho? And that is because Claude is not sycophantic. But let's say I want to write a blog article and I want it to sound really good, right? An opinion piece or something along those lines. If I give it to Claude, it's going to sound factual and professional and all that. The writing's not going to be very good. If I go give it to ChatGPT 4.1, it's going to be amazing. That's one small example of just trying of
knowing,
knowing, right? And so Rue has one proprietary model that we trained. It's about to have 2 because we've got another model that builds out workflows.
Okay.
But one of the things, as an orchestration engine that allows you to orchestrate these agentic systems, instead of giving you access to ChatGPT, we give you access to 400 different large language models. Now, for most people, it's going to be very overwhelming. So it defaults to the ones that are going to generalize and do well on most tasks. But if you're somebody who understands these systems and how to build them, you basically can just build for hallucination resistance. I build factual agents out of LLMs that don't hallucinate to double check that other LLMs aren't hallucinating inside my system, and I'm correcting them. So that's the other things. I guess the other one, like in your specific example, I would never ask ChatGPT to do anything with a CSV. Instead, what I would do is I would tell it to write some Python code that ingested my CSV and then did the operation and then give it back to me, right? Because like code always works the way that code is supposed to work. It will do a good job of writing code. And so even just understanding like that
How to
process
engage.
of how to engage is a part of it. And we're trying to build as much of that as we can into Rue.
The back end, into the
As
back
do most
end.
people who, yeah, as do most people who are working on this problem.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that
Mhm.
we that is unique to us.
Mhm.
The agent routing systems. In fact, if you go do research on agent routers and how to pick like what LLM for
Mhm.
what conversation,
Mhm.
there's a lot of really smart people that we're actually borrowing their work. In that case, I think we stand on the shoulders of giants on how to actually choose large language models based on the tasks that you're doing. Because, and this is me being silly on some levels, but I don't have a subscription to ChatGPT and that's it, right? I subscribe to every single major model. Plus, I have ways to run all of the private models because they all do things differently. And sometimes
Mhm.
I need
Mhm.
things that some of
Absolutely.
them don't. And I think that's where it gets overwhelming to people because they'll kind of be like, I tried ChatGPT and it didn't work. It's like, gosh, of course it didn't work for that task.
Mhm.
You should have been using Gemini 2.5 Pro,
Mhm.
the 6.5 edition, not the
Mhm.
5.6 edition, because it
Mhm.
does the best job at that task. Because how's a normal person supposed to know that?
And I
Like,
don't want the normal people living in this bubble. They shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to know the difference, and the fact that the tool can is where we're headed. You said overwhelmed, and it made me think so many people are still overwhelmed by this conversation, by how we're describing the opportunity. CEOs, where would you encourage them to start? Because I think the ones who've listened know this is where we're going. They I can't use the word accept. They understand where we're going, but they're really reluctant to start because of all the implications. What is your simplest advice for how to consider starting on this agentic path?
although I did it a long time ago with models that weren't as good, I always just suggest that people start where I started. Pick one small thing
Mhm.
that will not have a huge impact on your company if it doesn't
Yeah.
go well.
Yeah.
Implement it and start using it and see what kind of an impact it makes.
Okay.
I think it really does just boil down to taking that one. Even there was a guy I was talking to the other day. He's I don't know where to start, and I said, dude, just start add an assistant into your email that writes drafts for you and
Mhm.
organizes your email. Start there. Don't do something crazy. Just start there. And what'll happen is in about 2.5, 3 weeks, it's going to be impossible for you to imagine life without it
Mhm.
because it's going to save you
Mhm.
so much work. And then if you really want to see the impact, turn it off and go back to doing it the way you used to do it. And you'll be like, huh, that sucks. And so usually that's why I tell people just start somewhere simple. Generally speaking, when we work with clients on the service side of things where we build out agentic systems,
Mhm.
like very few people come to us and want to add 100 AI agents into their company, right? Like usually they'll say things like, I want to add a research agent for my salespeople so that
Mhm.
prior to them going on a call, we can research the prospect, understand their pain points, and
Mhm.
build a specific PowerPoint presentation for them,
Yeah.
for instance.
Yeah. Something
Uh,
super clean, super easy, and super valuable
yeah.
for them to go into that call with the right mindset.
Yeah. And then you build that and you watch and see what happens.
Mhm.
You watch your KPIs and you go, oh, look, like our close rate jumped by 3%. Like overall, that's a 3% extra
Well,
profit for this year,
yeah.
all because we implemented this one system that costs us 1/10 as much as one of our salespeople.
Yeah.
Like that was worth it. And so then from there, then you start looking at other ways to augment other people on your team. Ultimately, it boils down to this. Human human value creation. I'm going to use a dumb example, but I think it's a really visual good example.
Mm.
If on a construction site you need to move dirt from one place to another,
Okay.
right? Or you need to dig a hole,
Mhm.
which is a common thing, right? You build a house, you have to dig it out for the basement. People aren't just moving the dirt for no reason, right? Like generally speaking, the reason that you are moving the dirt is so that you can pour the walls for a foundation. or because you need to put in drainage, or because of something, right? The act of moving dirt is in itself worthless. Completely 100% worthless, non-valuable work, right? It is the end result. Currently, across millions and millions of companies worldwide, there are a bunch of people moving dirt. And the reason that they're moving dirt is because there is hope that at the end of that dirt moving task, they will do something valuable, put in a foundation, which once again, worthless. Like no one needs a foundation. It doesn't matter. The reason they do that is so they can put in the floor, right? Which is also worthless because no one needs a floor. The reason they do that is so you can put in walls, which are worthless because you don't need walls. You need siding and insulation. Because at the end of the day, the thing that has value is a house, right? And when you start thinking about how much your people do that is worthless, like i.e. they are moving dirt. And that's the reason I use that portion of the example to try to make it as vivid as possible. You are literally moving dirt. Nothing could be more worthless than moving dirt. You're doing that because you have this plan that once you're done with all of this processing that you do, the end result is going to be something that is much more valuable than one of its individual pieces. And like for me, the place that I started was, what people do I have in my company that are moving dirt? And can I build something that moves the dirt for them? Right? Because it's even, if you take the analogy further, it's even worse than that. A lot of companies have people moving dirt with a shovel and a bucket, right? And they're not even using an excavator. They're not even using a wheelbarrow. Sometimes they're not even using shovels, right? Like they're just using their hands. It is true. And because we have these very antiquated systems, imagine that you don't even have to move dirt. I mean, like if building a house was as simple as walking up on a piece of property and going, man, you know what? Right there, it looks amazing. This design is going to be great. I want this view. I want these kinds of counters. I want all of this stuff. You go to sleep. The next day you wake up, there's a house
It's there. Poof.
Right? That is what AI does for businesses. Because I can say, I want to have a bunch of meetings with VCs interested in the company I'm raising money for. Here's all the information you need to know about it. And then I can go to sleep. And when I wake up the next morning, I can have 6 appointments on my calendar.
Because it booked the appointments too. That's how far this goes. It doesn't just do the research, but it has agency to take the action, to take the autonomous action to go ahead and set those up on the calendar for you.
Yeah. And then the value creation that happens is the processing for that value creation. It just no longer has to happen. Now, there are some steps of building a house you probably don't want to outsource. Maybe the electrical is really important and you want people to look at that. There's a reason people do inspections, you know. Even in the digging of the dirt, sometimes it's important to have people there to make sure that things are going right. But the point that I try to make to people is that inside your company right now, probably 80% of what you do is a waste of time. It actually is just a means to an end. It is moving dirt. And if you can just make the dirt magically move. Yeah. And some employees aren't. Some people are happy moving dirt. I used to move dirt for a living when I was younger. I went and worked on construction crews. I've moved a lot of dirt in my life. The truth is, I doubt you can find somebody, even in the construction world, where if you said, hey, listen, if from now on all the dirt was always moved when you showed up, would you be okay with it? They'd be like, man, that sounds amazing. Because they want to go and build the forms and they want to do all the other stuff, right? And that's what I encourage people to do, is find the dirt. Like, where's the dirt that needs to be moved, and outsource that to an AI. No one wants to do it anyways. It's a miserable job. It's like insulation. No one wants to do insulation. It's terrible. Outsource that to an AI. Outsource as much as you can to an AI. And then take your very best people, your best architects, your best finish carpenters, your best roofers, your best siders, your best landscapers, your best dirt movers, and give them access to these tools, and you will make them so much better than they are today. The quality of the work that they do will increase exponentially. Their enjoyment of their job and their happiness will increase exponentially. The end product and the value that you deliver will be exponentially less expensive. And therefore fostering this abundance world that we could potentially have with AI. and you can be a part of something amazing. That's usually what I tell people.
So you've been really good about seeing the future. You were 14 and said, this school thing is not my jam. And then you jumped into Bitcoin when we still have a lot of people, myself included, that are not on the Bitcoin train. Even though I know, but so that's a whole other conversation.
You just like watching the price and feeling and wishing that you could have gotten in.
I just like my
2010,
friends calling
like
me
most
up and
people.
saying, "Hey, Tanya, I bought XRP and it doubled. Thanks." And I'm like, because I needed to have it double for me. But they take action, I don't. So, but you've been like, you've had a crystal ball into the future. So as we start to wrap up, what is a year from now for you? What do you think things look like? Don't let adoption gate your answer, because adoption is a huge issue.
I won't talk about adoption. I never think about adoption. It's a waste of time to think about it. Things will get adopted or they won't. I don't care. I want to know what's possible.
I love it.
I will say I've been really wrong on the AI stuff, more wrong than I've been about anything in my life.
Because it moved faster than you anticipated?
Yes.
Yeah. I get that.
And when I say that, 2 years ago, I anticipated that we would be where we are today in 5 years. And so it was less than half. It took less than half the time to get to where we are today. So I would take everything I say with a grain of salt. And I will also say people thought I was insane.
Timing is different from accuracy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen is this is going to be the decade of intelligence and agency, we'll call it.
You're talking about a decade? I am shocked.
Digital labor. I think it will take a decade to get to the end of where all value creation, and when I say all, I mean all value creation, whether that be a diagnosis for a disease, a new medication, the creation of a book or a movie, the creation of an application. Like, I think all value creation could be given to AI, and it will be able to do it at the same level as the majority of human beings. Not all, but the majority of human beings. I think that we'll live in a world where there is no such thing as a web app or like an app on your phone.
Yeah.
I think that in the future, you're going to just tell your phone what it is that you want out of your life. I want to wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. I want to build these habits. I need to manage my calendar in this way. I want to see my emails like this. I want to be able to send messages to my friends in this way. I think you'll be able to tell your phone what it is that how you want to live your life and what you want to do, and it will build you an operating system and applications for you to live your life that way. And when you don't like it, you just tell it to make adjustments, and it will do it.
I'm eager to see
all programs and applications are going to look like that. Whereas, man, I don't like how you have the button over there. It's, where would you like it? Well, I'd like it over here. It makes more sense to me. Okay. And then there you go. Everyone will have their own personalized applications that are running on their own machines. Like, I think that people will work if they want to. I think that a lot of people will work. I will be working, in a decade, even if I don't have to. I love to work. Yeah. I love to be a part of value creation. And I think that the tools that we'll have access to do that are going to be insane. You're not going to be hiring developers. You're not going to be hiring accountants. You're not going to be hiring graphics designers. What you're going to do is, I think that human beings are going to be vision casters, saying, this is the thing that I want. This is the thing that needs to happen. This is the work that needs to get done. And then they're going to be curators, right? Not creators. Because right now, human beings are the creators of value.
It's true. But there's a lot of effort in that.
Yep. And I think that there will come a time, like in the house analogy, where instead of creating this, you curate the house. After it's built, you walk through it and you say, I don't like this color of trim. I don't paint. I don't like counters. I think we need more outlets over here. I don't like the carpet. I want an extra bathroom over here. The roof line's too steep, whatever. You curate it. And then the AI goes back in, creates
We're vision casters, to your point.
Yeah. Yes, and we'll be the creators of whatever it is that we want to be creators of, which I think is going to probably sit in the arts and entertainment. Like, people are going to write books. People are going to paint pictures. People are going to create movies and movie scripts, like those really human things. But everything else that is just noise that just gets in the way, I think all that's going to get delegated to AI in the next decade and agentic systems
Mm-hmm.
that are doing things for us. I don't think we're going to use computers the same way, like in the sense that I think the mouse and keyboard are going to disappear entirely. We're going to have an assistant in our computer that understands our goals, knows what it is that we're trying to do, and our work becomes more like the collaboration with an external intelligence that
Yep.
you're delegating your vision to, and it's doing the things that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the world that I see being created. And I think it'll happen in 10 years. I heard something crazy. Globally, human beings pay other human beings $52 trillion a year to do work and specifically to do knowledge work, not all work, just knowledge work.
Okay.
So that's not building houses and this other stuff, just knowledge work. I read a paper recently that said that if AI doesn't improve at all from this day forward, of that $52 trillion worth of knowledge work, between 18 and $22 trillion worth of it could be delegated to AI today and have the result be better than the humans that are currently doing it.
40%. Wow.
Yeah, that's today. That's no improvements, no nothing. And so with that being the case, it will happen. It just will. And that paper was written like a month ago. The truth is that number probably increases by $1 trillion or $2 trillion every month. And so very soon it will be 100% is possible. And then the only thing that's going to be stopping it will just be us slowing down the process because we're uncomfortable with what's happening, right? We don't feel good about the people losing their jobs. Maybe we're even in a crisis. I don't know what happens if you lay off every single knowledge worker on planet Earth today, but you'd have a global crisis that would be far worse than anything humanity's ever experienced from a jobs perspective and poverty perspective. It would be a nightmare. And so maybe we slow it down just because of that. But if you don't think about those things and you think about what is possible, like value creation becomes free, which means that we live in a world of abundance, far more than anything that humanity has ever experienced. And scarcity becomes something that is just, you don't buy programs anymore. I think in theory you could live in a world where you don't pay for anything, where everything, the cost to create value is so inexpensive that you can do it for free, especially on the intellectual side of things. Maybe not on the physical side. Robotics, that's a whole nother thing. I think that'll take longer. I think we're 20 years away on that. But I could be wrong. Maybe we're 10 years away.
I'm surprised you're not more bullish on robotics. I'm pretty bullish on robotics.
I might just be stupid on robotics, or like ignorant, Bitcoin, which is possible.
Yeah.
I would not put it past me that I'm ignorant and stupid on the robotic side of things. There's a lot of things I'm ignorant and stupid on, actually, just simply because I have not ever looked into it. I paid this much attention to it because I'm so focused on the agentic side of things. I think that when robotics and the agentic world cross paths, I will have to become an expert. And I have been told by some people that will happen this year or possibly next. And so I will, if we do this podcast, let's say 18 months from now, I might know more.
Yeah. Oh, I suspect. I loved what you shared about what you see in the next year, but I suspect you are wildly wrong. In an unimaginable, I could not have forecasted this level of growth and development way. And
that's the thing.
Of us for making things happen.
I was told, when I first wanted to build Rue, it was 2 years ago. I said, hey, let's build this. And I was told by my CTO, he said, number one, the level of expertise, and because of the technology that would need to be created, the level of expertise that we'd have to hire in order to do this makes it unfeasible. Like, I don't think we can do it. And even if we had that team, it would take us 10 years to build what it is that you're talking about. And I went, okay, so we're probably not going to build this now. So we built some other stuff. When him and I talked 5 months ago, I said, hey, now I want to build it. And he said, okay, I'll have it for you in 4 months. So the estimate from 2 years ago was 9 years and a bunch of people we'd have to hire and a bunch of technology we'd have to create. To 2 years later, we were able to build the entire system in 5 months. That shows the level of growth that the world is currently experiencing. And people talk about it slowing down. It's not slowing down. No. It just isn't. Like, if anything, it's speeding up. but it certainly isn't slowing down, and it's definitely going the same speed.
Yeah.
And so the world's changing. I'm very excited for it. I hope that humanity does good things with this technology.
Yeah. And just to plant a seed, because I said this at a panel I did the other night. We think like this. We love this. This drives us. This really is our passion and purpose. There are 130 million people in the U.S. who still don't read beyond a 6th grade level. And that terrifies me. When people ask me what keeps me up at night, it's the people I grew up with that might fall into that bucket. But I don't think that we're going to magically teach 50-year-olds who don't have beyond a 6th grade level operating capacity. I don't think we're just going to teach them to read, but I think we're going to bring life to them in a simplified way that lets them engage. So that's my encouragement to all the super builders like you, that we have to build technology that enables all of us, not just the ones of us who love the technology.
Yeah. It'll start more complicated and it'll get simpler and simpler.
It already has. It already has.
Yeah.
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 Good.
And that trend will continue, I think. It's like computers. If you remember computers in the 80s, right? In the early 80s, before I was born.
I carried
you had to
sewing. It was like a sewing machine, right? It was like an 18-pound. I hauled it up and down the hill, Capitol Hill in Tennessee. I was an auditor. It was terrible.
And there was a book. There was a book that came with it. It was like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches thick of like all the things you had to know for how to use it, because it didn't even have a mouse. Like,
that's right.
There was no UI. It took, I bet you could have taken a 2-year college class on how to use a computer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you look today, I can give my phone, which is a computer, to a 3-year-old.
That's right.
And they can operate it just fine.
As you roll your eyes, just fine. They can do a lot more than we want them to.
Yeah, maybe even better than people.
Well,
AI will do the same thing over the course of the next decade or two. Where it'll become so easy to use.
When my mama was still here, I gave her an iPad for Christmas. And she loved that thing. You know, she could read on it. She could map her way to a new place, in a town nearby. There were all kinds. And so my mama grew into it. Lots of grandparents are getting on FaceTime with their grandkids across the country. I think people that aren't inclined to reach for technology are being presented with technology. That's why I'm very excited to see what Johnny Ives brings to OpenAI.
That's going to be very interesting.
It will be very interesting.
As one of the most visionary technical, I would say, not technical, he's like a user experience guru of some sort. He was a very brilliant. I do wonder, though, with him, how much of his skill set was implementing the visions of somebody like Steve Jobs.
We will know.
Because if you look at what Apple has come out with since Steve Jobs died, they have done very little innovation. I mean, they've done some cool software stuff and things like that, but he was always like
Tim's an operator,
once every year,
not
2
an
years.
Innovation.
Like when he was, I mean, Steve would come out and be like, "Hey, look at this thing that we did that doesn't even seem possible." It was always like magic. And I don't think that we have someone really like that on planet Earth at the moment that I certainly, but and I don't know that Ives is that guy.
Johnny Ives, and his partnership with Sam, people feel different ways.
I think he could make it, though. I think if somebody said, "Here's the vision for a future that looks way different," where you put a computer in your pocket.
Yep.
I think he is the guy to go and say, "Okay, I can get behind that and make that work." I hope that is what is happening with their partnership, because I think it could be really cool.
Yeah. And that kind of development will then trigger all the things that come to us to then build with, build on, build for. Right?
Yeah.
It will be a sea change of activity. So,
100%.
I'm not waiting 18 months to bring you back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll come talk to you whenever. We'll have fun conversations today, though. I'm fine.
Perfect.
I really appreciate you letting me come and jibber jabber for however long it's been.
Been more fun than I can imagine.
2 hours.
So it's all good. The hard part now is editing this.
Yes.
I don't want to throw anything away. It's all going to be good. So how can people not get in touch with you, but how can people see what you're doing? And can people experiment with Rue? If not, how long before they could?
Yeah, so there's an internal beta.
Yeah.
Once, if someone wanted to experiment in a serious way, like they're a business and they say, hey, like I really want to implement this, then I make it available. Like I'm working with several businesses right now. We're implementing workflows. We're basically doing what I would call like a closed beta.
Yeah. Yeah.
The platform itself, people are going to be able to sign up and start paying for stuff. Should be really in the next few days even. There are people that have been testing it like an internal beta, just individual users, solopreneurs, you know, friends of mine, people like that.
Yeah.
But if they go to rue.ai, they can schedule an appointment. I'll show up on that call. Yeah, for a demo and kind of show them what it can do, figure out what they want. Or people can find me. If you go Google me, there's my phone number's online, I think even.
Oh, geez. No, do not call Jesse Anglen. No one.
Can you believe that?
No, do not call him. Do not text him and say you have a great idea to add to his portfolio. Do not. Do not. But
it's fine.
But they can.
They can.
You speak a lot. You're in a lot of podcasts. They can find
available.
you on LinkedIn. Yes?
Yes. LinkedIn. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if you go and Google my name and like Jesse Anglen Rapid Innovation, you'll find like 65 different ways to get a hold of me.
Yeah, yeah. So, but Jesse Anglen, Anglen, and I'll put some of those in the show notes. And I look forward to seeing you again, maybe 8 or 9 months, maybe end of year, first of next year would be a good time to circle back. And next time I want you to play that Ovation guitar behind you. Something small for our group. I grew up in Nashville, so Ovation was the upgrade when you really cared about bright sound. So
yeah, I love and specifically that Ovation. I've never been a huge fan of Ovation sounds compared to some of the other guitars I've had, like Taylor's and Martin's and things like that. But that particular Ovation, it was at a pawn shop and I went and played it, and it sounds really like it's the nicest sounding Ovation I've ever heard for a thin body, right? It's not the big body Ovation, it's the thin body. It just sounds really nice. And so I picked it up and it's now my day-to-day player. So
I love it.
Whenever I'm stressed out, I keep it there so I can sit back and mess around with it.
I love it. Excellent.
Fun times.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this time. It's so valuable. What you've shared, I think, is going to impact or help a lot of people see their way through to the vision that you have. So thank you for being here. Any last statement before I close
Tanya, thanks
down?
for having me.
Okay.
I got nothing else. It was fun chatting with you, and I'm glad that we could do this. We've had a lot of conversations not on the air that were very fun, and it was fun to have one that we can share with other people. I hope it's beneficial and people get something out of it, which I think they will.
I have every confidence.
So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, we'll do this again. Jesse, thanks so much. Sweet. Everyone, this has been Jesse Anglen and Tanya Long on Reset with Tanya, and we appreciate your time, and we hope that we're part of your journey as we all I've been talking too long, as we all look to our transitions, as we do more, love more, and learn more. Everyone have a wonderful day. Take care. Goodbye.